Making this video now, I see that there are some pros and cons to the Pentax Q, the original one anyway, and these are my initial thoughts on it. The camera is small. As you can see here, I'm only holding it by 2 fingers, and I can actually zoom in and out with my middle finger. It is very small. It's a 12 megapixel CMOS sensor. Photos have come out pretty sharp, and on this one I had a filter on it, which I didn't realize I had, but this is my first photo. The main focus here was the water tower, and I used the fence post and the fence to lead your eye towards it, framing it between the tree and the fences. A little further down the road, I found a different composition, using the fence here to frame the racehorse tracks out there. Now as you can see, with the color profile that I had selected, or that was selected on the Pentax, everything came out so saturated. I tried flipping the camera for another orientation when I realized I was shooting 1 by 1, and I couldn't figure out how to change the aspect ratio, so that was kind of pointless. I fiddled around with the camera a little more, and I finally found a way to change the aspect ratio. So after setting it to a different aspect ratio, I came across this little scene where there was this cactus and the water tower. I really liked the way it looked, and in my head it looked very interesting, so I decided to frame it up and shoot it. This is the image I got. Using the composition of 3, I used the little bush, the cactus, and the water tower to make a little triangle in the image, and I think it came out well, but again, oversaturated, so I've already long since changed the color profile on these JPEGs. I framed up the next image here with this cactus and the water tower between some of its branches. I really like using a foreground element, especially in some of these very, I should say, empty landscapes, but this is how it came out. The clouds in the back are starting to catch, but again, oversaturation. And then I decided to move forward, get a little closer to the cactus, and center this water tower smack dab in the middle of it. And I think I really like this image. Really pronounced water tower, the cactus, were framing it really well. And just trying to capitalize on the composition, I shot the image again. I like the contrast between the orange on the ground and the green in the cactus, and of course the framing of the water tower smack dab in the middle. As I was getting back on the trail, I noticed that this bird landed on a branch, and I thought it was really cool because it's such a dead tree, and all of a sudden this crow lands on it. And this is the image I got. I love the way that the bird is just sitting there watching over the racetrack, sitting on this one lonesome tree in the middle of sunset. Or golden hour, I guess I should say. It's really cool though. As I walked further down the trail, I was looking at the bird, just enjoying the scene, when I noticed that the image of the bird, or at least the position of the bird in respect to the tree, was encroaching between these 2 branches, so I thought it'd make a really cool image. I framed it up, and this is the shot I got. I love the way it frames the bird. I think it makes it look more mysterious and more dark in a way. I found this little mobile home across the road that I really thought would be nice framed between some trees, but again, it's across the road and it just was losing foreground interest the more I walked closer to it. But I found this little bush here that I knelt down in front of it, hoping to give it some foreground interest. It kind of hid between the yellow grass on the other side as well, so I kind of lifted up the camera. But this is the image I got. If it wasn't so saturated, I think those greens would jump out more to you, but this is the basic context of what I wanted. I tried it again by moving a little closer and changing my foreground element, maybe just giving it a different look. I waited for these cars to pass, and this is pretty much the image I got. I definitely think it's a cleaner image. You can definitely see the mobile home, but I really would prefer the green in the foreground from the previous image. While walking back to the trail from my last composition, I came across this one. I love the way that this little tree is sticking up between all of these other dead trees, and the clouds are forming a nice little triangle shape to it. Well, in my head anyway. But this is the image I got. This is one of the images where I really felt that the oversaturation from the profile really helped the image. It just pops out so much. Looking over at the racetrack, I saw that the sunset was hitting it so nicely, but also that it was getting framed really well between these two trees. So I lined up the shot, and this is the shot that I got here. The way that the racetrack was framed by these trees and the color contrast between the sky and the ground really stood out to me. I tried shooting it in another orientation, but it didn't work out quite as much as the portrait orientation. A little further down the road, I saw this one tree that I really thought would make such a cool composition. It was just alone there, and I loved the way that the clouds framed it in the background. This is the image I came up with. I think that this is another image where the profile saturation really helped it out. I think that the color contrast is really great here. I was generally expecting to have to scrap this image, but the camera did such a good job capturing this backlit image. Very few color aberrations, and it just really did a great job. Really nice and detailed. This is one of those instances where the landscape color profile really lacked. I think that because it's all such warm tones, it really just looks so monotone and died down other than the sky. This is just your typical landscape shot, but I mean, the way that the colors were popping in this is incredible. It looks just like a painting. I love every single aspect about this image. If you've been a part of this channel for any length of time, you'll know me and signs. I mean, look at this one. The way it's framed, the background, it all just came together so perfectly to just draw your attention to this sign. Really worked out. Now the sunset was really taking off, and when I came upon this image here, I couldn't pass it up, using the telephone lines as a leading line and the two trees in front of us as foreground. This is the image I got. Look at the colors in the mountain and the telephone line, the way it draws your eye to the center of the image. As I turned around, I saw this man walking towards me with his dog, but he's too far away yet to do anything. So I took a photo of this mountain using the foreground to make it look a little more full and a little more lively than just a mountain and a cloud behind it. As the man and the dog got closer, I started framing up my shot, zooming all the way in and doing a lot of compression. This is the image I got. It's kind of what I had in mind, but a little too zoomed out for my taste. Calling upon my film days, I found this little composition that I really liked, but there was no foreground interest until I found this little bush. This is the image I got. I just love the way the building looks with the flag and just the sunset behind it. Really came together well. If you shoot sunsets at all, you know that things are changing so quickly, and the same scene can look so different. So I came back to this scene, and I shot it again, but this time through a different fence post. And this is the image I got. The colors, the composition, it all looked just so much better to me than the first image. Now to make this next image work, I really had to find a brush and nail down in front of it because there was no foreground interest at all, but I really liked the outcome of it. Making compositions like this work is hard, because you have to show just a little bit of the foreground of the road, enough of the bush, and enough of the scene to be able to tell a story, and I think that this shot kinda did that for me. The colors came out really beautifully in this shot. The Pentax really has been such a joy to use. It's really easy to maneuver, and once you really get the hang of the controls, it's super simple. I made it back to the original spot where we took our first photo, and I wanted to take it in this blue dusky hour to see how much it's changed. So I flipped the camera back to 1:1 and I took the photo again. I really like the way the image came out. The same composition, or a really similar one, but just a whole different feel, whole different color palette for sure. I decided to take full advantage of the fleeting sunset, so I framed up the racetrack here one more time, and the image came out pretty good. I think it might have been just a touch bit oversaturated, but overall, I really liked it. The composition was just a little finagling here and there, but this is the image that I got. I really like it. There's a lot of contrast between the colors, and you can just tell that the building was its foreground, or main subject. Overall, for my first impression of the Pentax, I loved it. It was so easy to use, it's so much fun, it's freaking tiny, the size of a credit card. A lot of people don't understand how small this little camera is, but I would recommend it. One thing I would recommend is you leave with a pocket full of batteries when you're using this bad boy, because it dies really, really quickly. I had to just keep turning it on and off. You cannot carry this thing and keep it on the whole time. This walk must have been like, I don't know, 45 minutes, and I went through a whole battery that way. And I was turning it on and off. So, it's something to keep in mind if you do get this camera. Thanks so much for watching my walk, guys. If you're enjoying this voiceover type of video, let me know. I kind of enjoy making them. I don't feel as pressured to come up with things to say on the spot, and I can just enjoy the photography. But if you're not really liking it, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day and subscribe if you want. Peace.